So, what are microgreens and what are sprouts? Is there any value to them? Do people actually need them? Well, we will find out. Since today is a day of celebrating transformation, let's look at. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Elegantly Raw. As you can see here, we're very raw and green. Today, we're celebrating the very powerfully loaded deep nutrition in microgreens. These are the microgreens we're using today. So this one, these microgreens here, these are the mustard greens. I happen to love mustard greens, extremely healing. This one are the broccoli greens. And then this one, which is still a little wet, this one are the mixed greens, the mixed microgreens, and this includes kohlrabi, red cabbage, beet tops, and a host of other greens that you usually put on your salad. So we're going to be looking at these today and how this will assist us with transformation. But the reason why this really works is because this is such deep nutrition. So we're going to be adding certain things into this, but before we do so, let's look at what do we need to make it more palatable for most people who love gourmet. And we're going to be making a dressing. But for the dressing, we're going to be using numerous things. I'm going to be putting this here, and we're going to be looking at all the things we're using for the dressing. The most important one are these delicious, gorgeous, stunningly beautiful, in season tomatoes right now. These are the heirloom tomatoes. That's why we have all these lovely colors. We're not going to throw them in. We're going to put them in kindly, gracefully, elegantly, mindfully, making sure that we are being kind and we're being totally and fully present for them as we place them into the blender. So you can see we have small ones and we also have big ones as well. So those are the tomatoes because they're in season. I believe in doing everything in season, which is why we're doing that. I happen to actually love the woodsy taste of portobello mushrooms, and I'd like to have a bit of that taste here because I'm looking for gourmet living food. So I'm putting a little bit of that in here. You can put a very small amount if, unlike me, you do not absolutely go nuts over this, which I do. And so I am putting more in there, and I might even put one more as well. Now, in addition to this, we are going to be using what I've been using all month. Those of you who've been watching all month know that I've been using the tamarind. And what I do is I take off, I simply just break into the tamarind like this. I remove the seeds, and I use the flesh. I put it into a mortar and pestle until I get this liquid gold, which is the tamarind juice. This is exactly what it looks like when you want to have a paste. This is the tamarind paste. Now, most places in the United States, you cannot get the actual paste from. You have to make it yourself. The reason why I prefer to make this myself is because we have a chance then to connect with the food. When we're not connected with the food, that is when corporations, industries can come in and they can genetically modify it and make it as toxic as we want, and we keep eating it and getting sicker and sicker and not understanding why. When we're connected to our foods, we take part of the healing. We do not ask the food to do for us what we will not do for ourselves. I wish you could smell this. This is a mixture of, and everything is organic, of course, fennel, coriander, and cumin. So I happen to love these. So I'm only putting a small amount today in there. But if you're like me, you would probably be putting a large amount, a very large amount. So that's the basis of the sauce. However, we're also going to be putting in some nama shoyu. Now, the word nama means raw, in Japan, it's a Japanese product. Shoyu is the Japanese version of soy sauce. The difference too in Japan is very often they do add wheat, so be aware of that, please. So I'm just going to shake it up a little bit, and then I'm going to add some in here. Now, what about salt, you say? But of course, I say. And we're going to be adding some Celtic sea salt. So here we are. Here's the Celtic sea salt. I'm going to be taking just a small amount of it because we can always add more salt later. Never oversalt your foods. This is something you could always add afterwards should you need some more. So we're putting the Celtic sea salt in there. And that one was the coarse one from Selena Naturally. That those of you who saw the show last week, you will have seen that one. Must not forget the almighty cayenne pepper. Must have cayenne pepper because this really empowers the healing in our body so much. Now, how much you put will depend on how mild or how strong your cayenne pepper is. This one happens to be very mild, which is why you see I put in at least 2 teaspoonfuls in there. I'm also going to be putting in the garlic. I've got 3 cloves of garlic here, which I'm going to be putting into the blender. I take the skin off first. I have 2 cloves for which I've already taken the skin off. And I want to just show you that you don't always, if you have a very powerful blender, you don't always have to take the skin off. But if you do not have a powerful blender, you do need to do so. And that's the garlic. Now here, the last thing I'm adding here for flavor and for also nutrition is nutritional yeast. This will give it kind of a cheesy flavor. Not too cheesy, thank goodness, but because I don't want to spoil all the taste that we have here. I don't want any one taste to overwhelm the others. And that's actually the key always when you're making food, is not to overwhelm everything with just one taste. Now we're going to be adding a little bit of apple cider vinegar with the mother intact. Everything is alive and living. And speaking of alive, if you wanted to, you could also add an actual pepper. You could actually add pepper in here. I do have some pepper, some jalapeno pepper, very alive that I've chopped up here, but I'm going to add this at the end. But if you wish to put it in the dressing, please feel free to do so. So we've got everything here now all ready to go. In the dressing, see those tomatoes? Oh my goodness, I just love those tomatoes. Actually, I'm going to put another one in there too, right in there, and the blender will take care of that. I don't have to actually cut it up. This is the beauty of having a powerful blender, is that you do not have to cut it up. Okay, there we go. Now, I must talk to you about cress. This is not watercress. This is upland cress. Most people in the United States, I have found just traveling around doing workshops and doing book tours, do not know the most incredible green that we have, which is the watercress, or in this case, the upland cress. Why is this important for you to know if you want to have a raw living foods diet or high raw or high living foods? This is because this actually is more nutrient dense than any other greens, even more than kale. So this is the most nutritionally dense green that exists. So I like to put them in as well into the salad. Now, I happen to love the taste of it. Not everyone does. The upland cress has a milder taste. So that's why I normally use that for clients. And now I'm going to be putting in, this is still that bowl. We're going to be mixing up this bowl with all these greens. And I'm putting in here some coconut. So you see, these are strips. These are coconut strips that I'm putting in here. And this is going to give a little sweet to it naturally. Not, too much of a sweet, but a natural sweetness to it. I'm also going to be putting in, so I'm adding sprouts. These are microgreens, very different from sprouts. Microgreens are actually grown in either soil or in peat moss. Sprouts are not. They just grow in a bottle like this on your kitchen table. So you don't, but they need to be washed thoroughly, both the microgreens and the sprouts. I washed the sprouts today at least 5 to 6 times. The microgreens, three to five times, depending on which one I was washing. Now, this is the azuki bean. For those of you who keep saying, oh, but where do you get your protein? Ha, ha, ha. Protein powerhouse here. The azuki beans, and also high in iron. Excellent for women who are menstruating or going through any hormonal problems or issues as well. And I'm not putting a lot here because it's so strong. Now, you might see that the FDA or um, the FDA or and other U.S. other U.S. Agencies say, do not eat sprouts raw. What they really mean is, what they need to say is, do not eat sprouts that have been unwashed. They must be washed and washed thoroughly. This is my favorite sprout. This is the mung bean sprout. Why I love this so much? Because this has so much protein and all of the nutrients that we need and deserve to have on a daily basis. So I am putting those in there as well. I am just going to mix this for a little bit, and then I'm going to add a few more things. So right now, this is like greens up and greens. If you want to really transform your life, you need to give your brain, your gut, your microbiome, a little chance. You need to give it the nutrients that it needs. This is it. Food is energy. Energy is information. And this information that we have is information for the microbiome, for the brain, for the cells, and how to live, whether you need more energy or not. Now, I've cut up some sweet peppers here. Some are orange, some are yellow, and some are red. So we have a plethora of the rainbow. We must keep with rainbow colors. The more variety we use, the quicker and easier and the much more pleasant the transformation, because this means that our body is getting exactly what it needs. And I said before that food is energy and energy is information. Information is key. Why? Because information controls our biology. What you eat will control not only how your mind thinks, but also every single part of your biology. What time you wake up in the morning, if you do sleep or not sleep at night, if you feel depressed, lonely, tired, irritated, or irritable, it all has to do with what energy you give your body, and that's in the form of food. Now, let's not forget the mighty onion. I happen to love purple onions, so I'm putting in purple onions here as well. So this is something which for me is optional. You don't have to put purple onions in. If you're not into purple onions, if you do the Taoist way and you do not eat onions or garlic, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to put them in. And then here I love raw pecans. And I did not chop them up. I left them whole. So I'll put some raw pecans in here as well. So now we have a plethora of greens. And if you look here, you will see that you also can just make it much simpler. You can actually just take pea sprouts, like I have in the center here, put some zucchini slices around it, and then put some portobello mushrooms, and you can have that as a meal. Just put that dressing on, and you can have that as a meal. Now, you could also, if you wanted, put ginger in the dressing or some turmeric. And I do this in the winter. Only in the winter do I do that. In the summer, I like to use summery foods and summery everything. Here is that dressing. So, I wish we had smelly vision and smelly internet. So you could smell this. This is just, just unbelievably delicious smelling. So I'm going to pour this now in the salad. And how much you put depends on you. I say start out with less and then add more as you go along. Now, I'm also going to put at the very end here some dill. Now, where did I get this dill from? I believe in living foods, foods that need to be alive. So what you need to make sure that your dill comes with a root attached. See, it's still attached to the root here, but I washed this piece and I cut it up. You always have anything that you want to make sure it's alive and it has its life force intact. Make sure that you have the roots. For example, this is an organic butter lettuce. It has the roots attached to it. So it's important you only take it. What I did this morning was I took it from the edges, much like when Duncan Burns was on. and showing you the veggie dome. If you recall, if you don't know, just go a few more shows past and you will see it this month. And what I do is I take them off, but you see it has the root attached. I take them off, then I wash it, but the rest of it, I leave it with the root attached. So this way the food has all the life force, so that you too will have all the life force as well in your meal. And I just wash it like this, and then I have it for whenever I need it. And we might be even using that today. So let's see what this looks like when we put this together, shall we? And now that we have the food, and we know that food is the information that the body needs on what to do, how the cells need to respond, what kind of cells we need to make, what kind of microbiome we're going to be having, what kind of mood or mood swings we're going to have. Let's now look at how we respond to the food, shall we? So there are many ways we can respond to the food. We can overdo it, we can underdo it, or we can take responsibility and decide, I am going to use food to change my life. What do I mean we're going to use food to change my life? Well, look at this. This is life-changing. Everything here is alive. There's nothing that has died or is dead. You could take those azuki beans and the mung beans and you could cook them slightly if you prefer. And some people do that in the winter. Or you could eat them alive and raw like this, which is my preference, definitely in the summer especially. But all year round, I do this. And you could take food like this and many other foods that come straight from the plant kingdom, and you could decide, I'm going to transform my entire life. What do I mean by this? Well, let's see. Who is Jane Elizabeth? Who is she? Why is there a Jane Elizabeth? And what is a Jane Elizabeth? And what are these pictures here? What is this one and the middle one and the one at the end? Oh, that's our guest, I think. Oh my goodness. Let's have a look and see and bring on Jane Elizabeth and let her tell us her story. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you so much, Dorit. That was a really great introduction. And I have to say, this looks like an amazing meal. You made me so hungry. Just looking at this, I want to go and make it right now. So I'm actually going to go so I can make exactly what you just made, and then I'll come back. Is that okay? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, thank you for the intro. And, you know, really my story is about transformation and about moving forward no matter what the obstacles are that come in my way. So 2.5 years ago, I was an obese, struggling asthmatic, believe it or not. And there was a moment where I realized that I had this choice to make, where I could either stay where I was and I could pass down these limiting beliefs and unhealthy behaviors to my daughter, or I could break that cycle altogether. I could be the last one in my family to deal with those issues. And I could actually choose. I could make that decision to create a healthy lifestyle so I could show my daughter what it means to be fit and healthy as her baseline, instead of always coming from behind and chasing a healthy lifestyle and trying, diet after diet, because diets don't work. They're very short term. People will see, and I've seen people, and I've done this too, you have this yo-yo effect where you lose weight and then you gain it back and you gain more than you were, before. And it ends up being very, very frustrating. And so I knew dieting wasn't the answer, the solution. And so what I did was I went vegan for the animals. So that was my first step, as it was aligning my behavior with my beliefs. I had no idea that there were any type of health benefits to going vegan. So I had no clue at all, or environmental benefits either. I didn't know that. But I did go vegan for the animals because I wanted to make sure that even though I can't save them all, I can be one less person contributing to the harm of animals. So I did that. I started working out at the same time. And the most amazing thing happened. My chronic asthma completely went away. And so I went from not even being able to run a mile to being able to run a little bit more every day. It was a little bit more and a little bit more. My endurance increased, my energy levels increased. And it was hard. I mean, this is a daily challenge, I will say, because you go from, being obese and starting to run, my knees were not feeling the greatest, to be honest with you. But I knew that, in a year, And then in 2 years, I could look back and I could either thank myself for continuing on that journey and putting in the work every day, or I could wish I had continued if I were to give up and quit. So I kept moving forward. And in the meantime, I was looking into the health benefits of veganism because, my chronic asthma completely went away. It was something I had struggled with my whole life. And I thought there's more to it than just, doing what's right for the animals, because otherwise, there's no difference really as far as, what I'm eating other than I went vegan. So I looked into the health benefits and discovered that there is this holy grail of health and nutrition that nobody was talking about. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and nobody was talking about veganism. So I looked into it. I actually looked into kind of the opposite way. Can I raise my daughter vegan and have her be healthy? And that's so I started looking into it that way, because I'm very fact-based. I like science. I love looking into things not to support my opinion, but rather to find facts, because I really, one of my pet peeves is when people try to find research just to support their existing opinion, because you're not actually looking for facts. You're not actually looking for the truth. You're looking to support what you already believe. So, and being that I went vegan and completely changed the way I ate, I knew that what I had always been taught wasn't necessarily the actual truth. So looked into it, and lo and behold, like I said, this holy grail, all this information opened up about all the health benefits of going vegan, and not just going vegan, but actually being whole food plant-based. And so I made the transition from being vegan to going whole food plant-based, or mostly whole food plant-based. And over the course of 18 months, I lost over 80 pounds, like almost 85 pounds. And this completely changed my life. Now I run between 7 and 20 miles a day, depending on, any races I have coming up. I mean, it may be more, but it completely changed my life. And the best part about it is that my daughter is learning how to be fit and healthy and make good choices as her baseline. So she's not constantly chasing the next diet craze, the next fad. She doesn't have to worry about, excessively working out to punish her body for eating a treat, here and there. So she's learning these healthy behaviors, a healthy lifestyle, and doing so in the most compassionate way, in a cruelty-free lifestyle. So we're, completely vegan, and she knows that animals are our friends; they're not food. And raising her this way is so important, because I actually lost my dad and my sister both to cancer, and there's no 100% guarantee to prevent, a cancer diagnosis. Being whole food plant-based, though, filling your body, like you said, with the nutrition it needs in its most pure form, is giving your body the best fighting chance you possibly can to really boost your immune system and help your body fight everything that comes in and threatens your health and your well-being. So I feel like I'm giving her the best chance. Not only is it cruelty-free and compassionate for the animals, it's doing what's best for the environment, and it's setting her up to live the healthiest way possible. So that's my story of transformation, and really giving her a clean slate by changing my life.
Jane, it looks like you've got some amazing supporters, and Carol Zarbano is just like so grateful for everything you're saying and speaking about. And Nathan Abbey just thinks you're amazing for being on. So it looks like you've touched many more people than just your daughters.
Lynn, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everybody. I am Lynn Hanalea. I work in the backside with Dorit. Dorit was actually my original teacher going into raw food, and watching her do the show is such a pleasure and such an honor. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Lynn. Gianni, would you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, hey everyone. Hi, ladies. That was a
Ladies,
wonderful.
there's some gentlemen watching too.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes. Thank you for the recipe and the presentation, Dorit, as usual. I've known Dorit since for a good 6-7 years, and I work in the background usually with Lynn.
Well, thank you. So, is there any comments for Jane Elizabeth, or any questions for her?
No, not at this time. So far, what's going on is that a couple of her supporters are just in awe that she's on a Sunday, and they're very happy for that. So,
Mhm.
Jane, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Oh,
Thank
thanks for
you.
having me on, Dorit. And it's so nice to meet both of you as well. And this is, it's so great to see a show where, you can share videos, because there are a lot of shows that really focus on, vegan food, which is fantastic. This show, showing, raw living foods is such a nice break from what we would normally see for, a vegan food network, basically, because this is showing people to take how they can take it one step further and do something that is so incredibly great for their health and their well-being. And the thing is, Dorit, what you made looks so delicious that even people who are out there like, yeah, that's great, but I want my, Beyond Burger and my fries, they're going to look at something like this and say, you know what, I could actually do something like this for lunch today. That looks really, really good. And I just love those flavors. So maybe I'm going to try that today. And you know what? That's great, because that's progress still, and it's doing what's right for your health. You're already vegan. You may as well try something like this, even if it's not normally something you would try. Why not? I mean, none of us, most of us anyway, weren't raised vegan. And so, you've already done something incredible. You're already in the 2% of people who have made this particular decision for probably the animals, if you're watching Jane Unchained, because this is an ethical vegan news station, the only one in the world, by the way, which is really cool. But, doing something like this for your health as well is so important, because, when you're out there as an activist and you're showing up for those animals and you're trying to change the world, and you are changing the world, by the way, if you're able to take care of yourself just a little bit more today than you did yesterday, you can show up even stronger for all those causes you feel so strongly about.
Thank you, Jane. So I have a question for you. The change you made was so phenomenal and such a huge leap. Could you please explain to us what was your belief patterns that got you into looking at the first picture that we see, where you have the cutouts of that garment on your arm, to the second one where you see the word vegan, to the one where you are right now? This is the same person. This person hasn't changed, but her belief systems obviously brought her here and changed her here. And I believe we must take a look at our belief systems, because we actually, without realizing it, photocopy it into food, and we use it around food. And you obviously use that to change your own relationship with food. So since this show, Elegantly Raw, is about changing our relationship with food, you are the epitome to me of that. So could you please explain what it is? What belief pattern did you have previously that you changed, and what is it now?
That's a really good question. So I think before, food was either a reward or a punishment. A lot of times, when you are so used to being in this cycle of dieting, what happens, and this is something that, unbeknownst to me and my family, this is something that has been, passed down. And I believe, and I will just say this, that everybody does the best they can with the information, the resources they have. So there's no blame here at all. And just a chance really to change the way you think and feel about food. So in my case, I watch the women in my family particularly go through almost every diet in the book. And I, participated in that too. And there were, you name it. I mean, there was the, no fat, high carb, which actually at that time meant high processed sugary products, which are so bad for you. There was the, keto diet, where people were eating like all meat and cheese. And obviously that's terrible for you for a number of reasons. And then all of these diets, the thing is, they would work for a little while, but then the second you would go back to eating the way you would normally eat, all that weight would come back. And the focus was never really about finding a healthy lifestyle. It was about a quick fix. And so that was something that changed for me as far as my mindset for not only food, but also fitness. So, the first thing was looking at food as fuel for my body rather than eating emotionally. So what I was doing before was every time there was a celebration, what do we do? I mean, there's a birthday party. What do? We celebrate by eating. Everybody eats at every celebration, at every family gathering, and at every funeral. Everything that you can think of that would have some type of emotional relationship to it, we've attached food. And it's so synonymous with celebrations, with struggle, with reward. We've attached food to everything. So no wonder why so many people have an issue with emotional eating. So what I did kind of unknowingly was I started this journey of healing myself. I was dealing with a lot of grief, a lot of sadness. And so I was healing my spiritual being at the same time as my physical being. So it was a whole body, mind, spirit transformation. So from a food standpoint, is really looking at food not as a punishment or a reward, but rather the fuel my body needs to live my best life. And from a running standpoint, it was actually saying, okay, today I'm going to have an 18-mile run. So what do I need to fuel my body so that I can not only just make it through this particular distance, but I can also thrive and I can hit a personal best, or I can, do this without any issues. And, this is why I think food is so important for people to really, grasp the idea of using food as fuel. It's what your body needs. It's energy, like you were saying, Dorit. So this mind shift is so important, because then when something happens, you're able to actually deal with your emotions separately from eating food. So you're able to kind of detach food from emotions. And don't get me wrong, when you eat something that is so delicious for you, you're going to feel good. But it's not because you're rewarding yourself. It's because you're actually filling your system with the food your body needs, wants, and can use. So there's a huge shift. So you're eating because it's good for you, not because, and you're not punishing yourself. So if you have a treat, you're saying, I love this treat. I'm going to allow myself to live in this moment and enjoy this without punishing myself with extreme workouts or skipping meals or anything like that afterwards. So it's just a complete shift in the mindset about food. So I love that you're doing this, Dorit, and that you're helping people change the way they look at food, because this is something that for most Americans is a huge problem. A lot of that also has to do with food addiction. That's a whole different subject for probably a different show, because the food that we've been taught that we need to eat is highly addictive and really, really bad for you. So, breaking those addictions and really getting your body used to, it changes your whole palate. So the way you taste food is different when you are actually filling your body with good, nutritious food. So it's like I said, it's a totally different mindset. And, I love eating now. I never skip out on food. I eat a lot of food. I never punish myself for eating anything. It's a great feeling. I look at it as the fuel I need. And it's a great feeling to do that. And then for my daughter, the thing is, she doesn't know what a diet even is. She is able to look at food. I give her choices. And there are choices, between, she can have a green apple. She could have, we have things like vegan cheese in the house, because, it's something that we can have, here and there. And so she'll look at things, or, quinoa or rice, or, whatever it is, green peppers, watermelon, and she can have a choice between that, and she could have some potato chips. And you want to know what? Because I don't make it about, you have to eat this way no matter what. I give her a choice. It's always vegan and gluten-free. The majority of the time, 9 times out of 10, she chooses the green apple, the watermelon, the rice or quinoa. She chooses what she sees me eating. And that's her choice. So, building those behaviors too, about making it about abundance rather than restriction, I think is so, so important. Because when we look at it that way, about there's this whole abundance of food that I can choose from that's going to fuel my body the right way, and I'm going to feel so good all day because of my choices, rather than, I'm restricting myself and I can't have this or I can't have that. When you look at abundance instead, your body and your mind take notice of that. And you are living then a more abundant, satisfied, satiated life, which I absolutely love.
I love that you have said abundance instead of restrictions, because to me, this is very abundant. This is pure abundance. And what if, to celebrate a birthday or somebody, this is what we gave. This is what we used instead. What if we used something that was not toxic and poisonous? Why do we celebrate with things that we know we will regret later, and things we know are very, very toxic to us and do nothing for the brain or the microbiome, and that the cells don't even know what to do with it? So I just wanted to remind you all that I did not put any oil on this at all on purpose. But that's not because I believe in an oil-free diet, because like Elizabeth said, I believe in abundance and not scarcity, and our body does need fat. The reason why I didn't put oil in this dressing when I was putting in the blender was because I don't like to actually drown it in it. So what I do is I spray it on instead. I use a spray bottle like this, and then I spray it all over. This way, it doesn't drown in the dressing, and it gets just enough oil, and you can keep adding or putting more or less to it. I also just added the jalapeno peppers because I happen to be a jalapeno friend. I'm a big friend of the jalapeno pepper, and I love jalapenos. So I want to really thank Jane Elizabeth today. I would like to thank, of course, Lynn, who just moved and is not even had her furniture arrived yet, and Gianni for being here today. And is there any one last thing from the audience that you think we need to hear?
Well, first of all, I'd really love to thank Jane. Jane, I lived that life, and the fact that you're supporting your daughter so beautifully is such a testament, and I want to thank you for sharing that. There is nothing else to say here, Dorit, except for, can I come over for lunch?
I need that recipe.
Actually, I am creating an app now. Well, I'm not doing it. I don't know how to do it with all the recipes, and people can go to the app hopefully in a month and download them from there. In the meantime, Jane, I just really want to totally salute you. I would like to honor you. I would like to thank you because what you're doing and what you have done is really open up gates for a lot of people who thought it could not be done. It will not happen. There's no way. This is just who I am and what I am. And what you've shown is the power of being awareness. It was awareness that got you here. It was awareness and a commitment to yourself, a huge commitment to yourself and to your daughter. Most people have daughters, and then the daughters end up the same path, or sons that end up the same path. And we say genetic. No, it's what we learn. It's whatever we learn during our childhood, we tend to perpetuate, and we continue, or we go back to it. Fortunately for me, I was actually brought up a lot on foods that were raw and alive. I wasn't aware of that. I just thought all food was like that. That's why it's so easy for me to always go back to it. And when I actually want something that I find is extremely beneficial to me, I immediately, in the summer, think fruits. In the winter, I immediately think greens, because that is actually eating instinctively. And what I'm teaching with this show is for people to eat instinctively. The third book I'm writing right now is to help people to learn how to actually go back into themselves, remember the truth of who they are, and start eating instinctively, then jumping from diet to diet, because as Jane Elizabeth says, it does not work. So until next time, on behalf of everyone here and our absolutely incredible guest, Jane Elizabeth, thank you all, everyone. See you next week, same time, same place.
Thank you.